Bienvenue à tous and welcome to a very special two-part reporters program. We're looking in depth at the situation in Mali. In this first part, we go to the face-off in the mountains of that country. The Ifoghas ranges become the front line in the battle against the Islamists who snatched the north of the country, the Azawad region. French-led forces have the Islamist extremists pinned down in the Ifoghas mountains, the place they fled to after being forced out of the towns and villages that they terrorized for 10 months. Lives have been lost, but the cost of not succeeding in Mali might have been paid by us all for years to come, with the region at risk of becoming the new stronghold for Al-Qaeda worldwide. Our reporter with the French forces battling the Islamists in the Ifoghas is Matthieu Mabin.
Scenes of combat in the Ametatai Valley. 2 months after French troops first set foot in Mali, the airborne regiment of the Foreign Legion is hunting down the jihadists on their own turf. The region is half the size of France. This is Al-Qaeda's sanctuary in the Maghreb.
300. Where's Lukács? Lukács, take my left. 600 to my right. Form a line and comb the zone in this direction.
300, 600. In Legion speak, that's the shooting distance. This battalion has been tracking jihadist groups for 12 days in this lunar landscape.
On the hilltop there you can make out something that looks like a combat post. There's a shadow that could be someone.
The biggest risk is coming face to face with somebody holding an AK-47 or some other weapon. But there's also a possibility of running into a suicide bomber, a desperate guy inside a cave ready to blow himself up with his ammo crate. Our guys are on the slope combing everything. We can't be everywhere, but we cover as big an area as we can.
Major Clément has yet to turn 30. After several rotations in Afghanistan, he's having to get accustomed to an enemy with different tactics. Beneath these trees, the battalion has just uncovered a network of tunnels similar to this one.
Inside you can hide weapons, everything you need to survive and fight for several days. It's all hidden away, and it's invisible to our Air Force.
Impossible for either drones or satellites to make out. Al-Qaeda fighters have been in the region for 10 years and have transformed the terrain.
We're still coming across many small places where 5 or 6 jihadists, 5 or 6 fighters are living. There's usually 2 or 3 bags of rice, some sugar, some bottles. They're living in holes, a network of holes dug under the rocks, which can easily harbour 200 to 300 fighters.
This also means no tanks. The chase has to be on foot, and the temperature can reach 45 degrees centigrade. Legionnaires have christened this place Planet Mars. After 2 hours of scouting, the battalion makes an interesting discovery. Underneath one of the rare trees, they find a stash of chemical substance the soldiers know only too well: nitrate.
We have a kit for explosive which tells us instantly if it's nitrate. We tested it and it came up straight away as ammonium nitrate, which is what you use for homemade bombs.
Raw ammonium nitrate is the main element needed to manufacture an explosive belt. There's roughly half a ton of it here, enough to equip some 70 suicide bombers. But what this really is an open-air bomb-making site.
60mm mortar from China and 2 Belgian 60mm mortar rounds.
There are enough explosives here to place mines all along the valley. The battalion needs to get rid of the nitrate.
Usually the easiest way is to dissolve it in water. But considering water is a rare commodity around here, we're going to try and scatter it across the widest area possible to make it impure and much harder to turn into an explosive. It's a bit of an old-fashioned technique, but we have no other option. Scorf, you make him spread it out. The idea is to mix sand with it.
Suicide bombers are a soldier's nightmare. This small appliance is a manual trigger for an explosive belt.
That's a firing device. You can see the plus and the minus. It's an electronic handle, a simple switch, working as a trigger.
A typical kamikaze kit, and each time it's the same method. The firing device in the left hand, the bomber waves at his potential targets and blows himself up. That same week, over in a neighbouring valley, a suicide bomber killed 10 charging soldiers.
Okay, everybody move back, please. Outside the security perimeter. Step back. There's a gas bottle wired up to a detonator.
It could well be a trap.
Lieutenant, call on the radio. Tell them I'm going to intervene. I demand clearance to intervene on a wire and what looks like a detonator.
Blue 30, everyone's taking cover. Griffon is going in.
Notify the doctor. He needs to be ready to move in.
You're good to go. You'll get your clearance.
The bomb disposal expert has to move the gas bottle slowly away with a cable. With their heads down, the legionnaires hold their breath. It turns out there was no trap, not this time at least. As for the explosives, the battalion will send them back to base, where weapons seized by the army are piling up in huge numbers.
This weaponry was stocked in good condition. It should normally be transferred over to the Malian army.
And it's back to base camp for the legionnaires too. Just in time, in fact, to bid a last farewell to a fellow soldier killed during another mission. A 26-year-old corporal, the third French serviceman to die in Mali. Missions in the desert mean a nomadic life with few comforts. Logistics have never been the French army's strong point. It's barely dawn, but already time to be on the move. Last night, a reconnaissance team spotted a group of jihadists. Several French nationals taken hostage in the past month might also be held over there somewhere. The temperature's already 35 degrees. The men need to reach the target before it climbs to 50.
Did you hear that? It's where the blue tarpaulin is.
The battalion snipers have the enemy in gunsight.
There are shots being fired over there. Can you hear them?
Lieutenant Christian calls the moves as they approach the enemy position.
Vincent, this way. About 4 or 5 individuals.
4 to 5 jihadists hiding in the nearby caves. There are no match for the army's attack helicopters, but today there'll be no airstrike.
Why are there no airstrikes? Probably because we're in the zone where the hostages are held. They might have postponed it slightly. We've got a good spot here.
Assault scheduled in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Alpha, we are 150 meters away. We can intervene in less than a minute.
But it doesn't all go as planned. From a distance, the jihadists have again started firing at the battalion. A group closer to the attackers is forced to move in. Behind these rocks, the assault begins. The enemy is surprised and the fight is over in just a few minutes.
There's the corpse of a bearded man over there.
Among the dead bodies, they find a terrified young teenager. To calm him, the sergeant puts his weapon down.
I'm your friend. Put your hands up like this, slowly. Everyone else back away, you never know.
There's a risk he might blow himself up. At first, they can't see his left arm. In fact, he's been wounded.
Okay, don't move. Your clothes, take them off. Your clothes, off. You take them off. Okay. Now you put them there. And now your trousers. You take them off. Okay, that's fine. You can put them back on.
He isn't armed or wired for explosion. The tension eases.
Okay, come out of here. Come with me. Here, go sit in the shade.
A fighter could be hiding in every tunnel or ditch. The battalion cannot afford to leave one stone unturned. With little food or water, jihadists have been waiting for the French soldiers here.
Yeah, you can put it back on. I can confirm that 4 people have been killed and 1 arrested.
4 jihadists have been shot dead and a boy taken prisoner.
Here you go, some water.
Just minutes ago, they had their guns pointed at each other. But it's over now.
What's your name?
Abdulrahman.
Abdulhamad. My name's Sebastian. You shouldn't bang. What, you want to leave? In a minute.
The bullet wound in his arm seems superficial. What the boy needs now is food. He won't get to see the legionnaires bury his comrades. The procedure's very brief, with a few stones to cover the bodies. After receiving their exact location, the Malian army will take care of their transfer.
Your family's over there, in Sudan? Your mum and dad, over there?
The child utters a few words in French. He says he was a farmer until he was kidnapped by men he calls mujahidins.
They took you away like this? They made you a prisoner?
A legionnaire from North Africa takes over the interrogation in Arabic. The kid explains he was positioned away from the front line with a small group of black fighters like him. Their chiefs disappeared.
There were 3 Arabs with him. They told him, you stay here, and then they left.
Not an unfamiliar story. It's the same one told by many prisoners. His chiefs, nearly all Arabs, probably fled to neighbouring Algeria, leaving their recruits behind to fight the French army. What are you carrying?
The war trophy. An RPK machine gun with no magazine. The other, the prisoner, he's small. He walks slowly.
We noted that some of the fighters were very young, about 15 years old for the youngest. This complicates the task because we are facing an entrenched enemy. Our fire must be very precise to avoid taking the lives of these young men who have mostly been forced to fight.
After 14 days of fighting in the Ifoghas mountains, the French soldiers had lost 3 men and claimed to have killed over 150 jihadists, but there was still no sign of the French hostages.
With us here in the studio is our reporter Matthieu Mabin. Matthieu, good to see you. We saw a lot in your report about the task that the French troops are facing. Tell us more about the difficulties that they have to get over.
This part of Mali is probably the worst part of Mali. The French legionnaires who are fighting over there call this region the moon. You won't find any flower, you won't find even a drop of water. It is probably the hardest battlefield they have ever faced in their military life. So they were worrying a lot about facing their enemy in this region, even if they knew they would one day. Since the beginning of the operation, in the very beginning of January, last January, they saw their enemy flee all the time. They took Gao, they took Tombouctou, they took Kidal, and every time they missed the battle because there was no enemy in the field. They had a rendezvous with their enemies, they knew it, in this Ifoghas mountains, and this meeting is just happening right now, and this is what I saw.
So the importance, Matthieu, of taking this mountain range, the Ifoghas, it's clearly vital. It
is definitely. Really, before the beginning of the war in January, we knew that the headquarters of Al-Qaeda in this region, the headquarters of all the Islamist groups who gathered in Mali, were in this mountain, in this Ifoghas, and precisely in the Ametetai Valley, which is almost a city, a jihadist city, very organized, with a lot of men, probably close to 1,000 men, 1,000 fighters, with some women, with some schools and training centers, a lot of weapons, all the weapons which were taken in the military barracks in Tombouctou and Gao, in the Malian army barracks, was taken to this region. We found some very big cannon, some tanks, even some tanks. That was a big surprise for the French troops. But even if they knew, they would hit the Islamist groups in the heart.
So clearly that is where the battle is. Matthieu Mabin, thank you very much indeed. You can watch Matthieu's report again, of course, via our website, france24.com. But do stay with us. Coming up after the news, part 2 of this reporter's Mali special. Stay with us.